From blaming medical issues for his loss, to refusing the UFC's comparison of the Nomad to Jon Jones, this is how Geoff Neal admitted to why he lost against Shavkat Rakhmanov. Hands of Steel revealed that he wasn't completely fit for the fight, and that's the reason why he missed weight for the match too. This is the first time in his career that Neal failed on the scales, and it'd usually mean that he wouldn't be eligible for any bonuses or even his full purse. But Dana White was impressed with Geoff's showing in the octagon, so he decided to award him a $50,000 bonus in addition to the purse. The loss was not easy for Neal to take, and he said that he had some medical issues before the fight and was carrying some injuries from training as well. He refused to go into details of what the problem was, but admitted that he wasn't as well prepared as he should have been. Hands of Steel thinks that if he'd done more and stuck to a better diet, none of it would have happened. So the lack of preparation was what actually cost him the win against Rakhmonov at UFC 285. Neal promised his fans that he was going to take care of all that stuff now to avoid anything similar happening in the future. Fighters have to be at their very best in the octagon, but the reality is that most athletes do carry some sort of injury from training in the cage. That wasn't the only reason that Geoff lost though, and he admitted that Shavkat was the better man on the night. Heading into the match, Neal didn't think that the Nomad would be that good. He told MMA Junkie in an interview that he learned not to underestimate anyone because of this loss. But Geoff really had fun in the octagon against Rakhmonov. He got to test himself against a tough opponent and would like a chance to face Shavkat once again sometime in the future. But he knows that he'll have to earn his way to that fight now. Rakhmonov is one of the most exciting prospects in the octagon right now and is currently undefeated with a 100% finish rate. Dana's likely going to push him towards the top of the welterweight ladder and in time, maybe even offer him a title shot. Geoff, on the other hand, is unlikely to be offered the same if he doesn't keep winning. But he still wants to fight the Nomad again because of the way that he lost. The way that Shavkat choked him out, Neal just can't let it slide. To be fair to him, he hasn't changed his stance on what happened since the fight, because Hands of Steel posted that he wasn't completely fit on his Instagram almost immediately afterward, and even asked for a rematch too. Now you guys must have heard fighters make injury excuses thousands of times, but given Neal's fighting history, I don't think he's making any excuses here. The man has fought and defeated the likes of Vincent Luque and Belal Muhammad and has never failed to make weight. So there may be some underlying issue that he didn't want to talk about. What's more is that he's giving Shavkat credit for outperforming on the night. And you just can't discount how that match was an absolute war. I mean, you don't usually see Dana throw out all of his rules like that. But even the UFC boss felt that Neal and the Nomad gave everything they had in the octagon. Rakhmonov may have made the jump in the rankings, but Geoff proved that he was a solid contender in an already stacked division. The two men went right at it as soon as the bell rang. Shavkat was able to crack Neal with a head kick and knee in the first round, but Geoff rallied back from it and was able to stun the Nomad with a couple of strikes of his own. Hands of Steel even knocked out Rakhmonov's gum guard right out of his mouth, but being the savage he is, Shavkat kept on fighting without it. Even the ref didn't notice that, and it was only after Joe Rogan pointed it out that the ref stopped the fight to let Rakhmonov put his mouthpiece back in. Neal tested the Nomad's chin multiple times throughout the fight and was able to defend takedown attempts as well. This was Shavkat's longest fight in his career, and Geoff showed how durable he was in the octagon. Rakhmonov was ahead on the scorecards before the third round began, so the only path to victory for Neal was to knock out his opponent. He did manage to rock the Nomad, but in the end, he took too much damage himself, and Shavkat was able to sink in a bulldog choke to close out the contest. With Valentina Shevchenko and Jon Jones fighting on the same card, not many people expected this particular match to play out as it did, but the MMA community just exploded. Pros and fans alike agreed that this was one hell of a fight. It caught the attention of some of the biggest names linked with the UFC. Ben Askren summed it up as a fun fight to watch, and Belal Muhammad declared it to be the fight of the year. Even Justin Gaethje couldn't help himself and said that both of these men were tough. Sean Strickland and Tanner Boser called for every single bonus of the event to be awarded to Neal and Shavkat. Chris Weidman and Terrence McKinney couldn't believe the finish Rakhmonov was able to get because you rarely ever see a standing rear naked choke in the UFC octagon. Jan Blachowicz congratulated the Nomad on utilizing his signature finish in such a fashion, and Gilbert Burns welcomed him to the top half of the welterweight division. The fans were all over this one too. You don't often get to see a war like that, and with his performance, Shavkat gained tons of new fans. Even though Neal lost, fans were cheering for him as well for the heart that he showed. Even Dana couldn't contain his excitement. During the post-fight press conference, the boss announced that he was giving both Shavkat and Geoff the bonus. He also pointed out that he doesn't usually go into the octagon after a non-title fight, but this one was just too special. Like I mentioned before, Dana doesn't look too kindly on fighters who miss weight, but he was willing to let this one slide for Neal because of the heart he showed in the octagon. Hands of Steel took a lot of beatings from Rakhmonov, but still managed to force the final round and kept hitting the Nomad back. None of this was missed by White, and he praised Neal for showing up on the night. If these guys keep performing the way they did, Dana's sure to give them huge opportunities in the future. Shavkat doesn't have an opponent yet, but Geoff's been matched with another rising prospect and will take on Ian Machado Gary at UFC 292 in Boston. The Irishman already has Conor McGregor's seal of approval, but must show that he's got what it takes to make the run to the top of the division. Neal's sure to test Ian's chin as well as his heart. With both fighters coming in from a striking heavy background, this one's sure to be another fun fight. Plus, the loud Boston crowd will make this bigger than it already is. Geoff will want to win because he hopes of challenging for the title once again, and has said before that he wants to avenge the loss against the Nomad. For Gary, it's going to be a huge chance to prove that he's ready to throw it down with the big boys, and if he can secure a win, then we'll have another young contender in the division. The UFC can sell the young Irishman as the second coming of Conor, just like they tried comparing Shavkat to Jones, but Neal didn't see it that way. The UFC posted John's iconic finish over Lyoto Machida alongside Rakhmonov's finish on Geoff on their official Instagram account and said, "Shavkat gave us shades of John Jones on the night of his return." Both Machida and Neal could be seen slumped on the canvas as the victors just walked away from their opponents, but Geoff doesn't agree with that take and said that he didn't go all flippity-flop like Lyoto did. You've got to admit, that was a little disrespectful from the UFC socials, but it was all in good humor. Neal didn't take it to heart, and the fans were backing him up too. He put on an insane battle against one of the toughest dudes on the planet and managed to take him almost all the way. While the comparison between Machida and Neal may be unwarranted, but Rakhmonov's got that similar bad boy energy as Mr. Bones. All that's left to see is if the Nomad can make his way to the top, or will Hands of Steel come back to stop him. So, from refusing the UFC's comparison of the Nomad to John Jones, to blaming medical issues for his loss, this was how Geoff Neal admitted to why he lost against Shavkat Rakhmonov.